Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Unstoppable Marketer Podcast. With me, as always, is Mark Goldhart. Mark Goldhart, how are you?
Trevor Crump, I'm good.
It's been a long time since we've had like a 3-week.
Has it been 3 weeks?
I think it's been 3 weeks since we've recorded a podcast and published one.
Really?
I believe so.
No.
I know.
Maybe 2.
I can look, but I'm
3. That's a long time.
I'm confident. Well, I think it'll be 3 weeks
But
when
it's
this
summer.
launches. Yeah. Well, actually, just to let everybody know, yes, it's summer. Normally, we take summers off.
But we love
Like,
you guys
normally,
so much.
we just kind of say, hey, you know what? Guests are, on vacation. We are on vacation. We have things going on. Let's take the summer off. And we have not done that this summer. So this is episode 97, by the way.
3 more to 100.
3 more after this to 100.
Should we have a special guest?
I've thought about that. Do we have a special guest? Do we have a... Maybe, I think episode 100, you and me prep, and I think we do it solo. We don't share it with somebody. And we, like...
Like having a birthday party, but not inviting anyone?
Yeah. What we should do is do a podcast.
This is my birthday party,
We should
sorry.
just do a podcast in like a public area, episode 100, and invite a bunch of people out. But that seems like too much work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Too
I'm
much
not,
work to-
I'm not
yeah.
interested in doing. But what I think we should do is we should have like the a recap.
We should do a giveaway.
I love a giveaway. We'll do a big giveaway.
Let's do some, I don't know, golf bags.
We could do some product giveaways, and we can do some consulting giveaways.
Yeah.
Some of our favorite brand giveaways.
Yeah, that's cool. Let's
I like
do
that. That's what we'll do. We'll do a giveaway
Maybe
of
we can get
like
some shoes.
review the podcast. Anyone who reviews the podcast will get entered into a giveaway and shares about the podcast.
Yeah, let's reach out
And
to
we'll have some standard issue. We'll have some Jones golf bags. We'll have some
I bet we could get
maybe
some
some Kizik shoes. We'll have some good stuff.
Maybe we can get some Bruce Bolt gloves.
We'll have some bestie swag.
Oh, yeah. We'll have some really good bestie swag.
Some bestie swag, and then we'll maybe give like a couple hours of consulting.
I like it.
But anyways, what I was going to say is maybe episode 100 is us going through the last like 100 episodes and carving out like biggest impact lessons that guests, or I guess we, address.
I like it.
Kind of
do
like
it.
we can kind of go like a round robin of like our top 5 favorites each, maybe
I
3
like
to
it.
5.
Let's do it. Yeah.
That could be a good episode 100.
Episode 100.
So get ready for that one. We're going to TLDR the previous 99 episodes in an hour,
Yeah, we should.
an hour and a half.
No. We probably won't do that, but we will do a TLDR.
Yeah. Yes.
But I
Of
gotta
our
tell you
favorites.
the story from last weekend.
Let's hear it.
It's a really good story, and there's a life lesson in there. I think everyone will enjoy it.
Okay.
So my oldest is 7. He's old enough to take him on a little fishing trip, so I took him on a father-son
Outing.
fishing trip. Just me and him. Because he can do some things, 4-year-old, they're a little too young to be there for too long.
Yep.
And we go to a little lake that is well known for catching big fish, but you can only use fly lures, like you can't be using bait.
Mhm.
And we went out there, and on day 1, we caught some cutthroat trout. Pretty good size, like 16 inches.
Mhm.
Pretty solid, but what was funny is we caught one, so we caught 2 of them. It's not a lake that you catch a lot of fish. You just catch some big fish, and then you're trying to catch like a really big fish.
Yeah.
That's kind of all you do there. And so we caught 2, and in one of them, as we were unhooking it, there was a fly inside of its mouth that was still hooked.
So somebody cut the line, or it
It broke.
Yeah.
It broke. Yeah, it got away.
Yeah.
So I pulled out that little fly, and it's called a damsel, like a blue damsel. So there's these little blue dragonflies that hatch on this lake, and they're everywhere. And so I pulled out this fly from this fish's mouth, and I realized, because I didn't have one of those, and I was really bummed because I didn't have one of those flies, but I pulled it out, shook it off, got some floating on there so it'd float again.
Uh-huh.
And then at that time, lake had kind of heated up, fish weren't jumping, so we left
Yep.
for the day, and then went back that evening. Used that fly, and we caught like the biggest, fattest tiger trout that I've ever caught with that little fly we pulled out of another
Nice.
fish's mouth.
Nice. That's
And it was
cool.
on the last cast of that evening too, because my kid was like kind of done. He's like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's do 10 more casts. And it was literally on the last cast, monster tiger pounds that fly. We get to bring it in. My son gets to hold this big old fat fish.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Nice.
So there's a life lesson in there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Give me the lesson.
Well, life lesson number 1 is you can recycle stuff. So in your marketing strategy and in those hooks, you might have used a hook in the past and it got away, or you might have used an ad or a concept. Like, you can recycle stuff
Totally.
again.
Totally.
You don't have to just throw everything away.
Right.
And in fact, a lot of companies see a lot of success going through old content, recycling it using video editors, right?
Yep.
You go through, you get all that content, and you compile it into new ads.
Yes.
And then you can use voiceovers, or there's different techniques to turn that into
repurpose it all.
Yes, into a full-fledged ad.
Yes.
Okay, so there's life lesson number 1. Life lesson number 2 was at the end of that evening, it was like, hey, let's do 10 more. Like, we see them jumping, they're starting to rise. Let's just do 10 more casts. It's getting a little late, so let's just figure this out. 10 more, but then we're done.
Yeah.
Cast number 10, we catch the biggest fish. Like, the whole reason why we went there was to catch a fish like that.
Right.
And so life lesson number 2 is it's about averages in marketing. Like, you're never striking, like, you're never hitting every ball that's thrown to you.
Yeah, not every
you're not catching every fish in the lake.
Every ad dollar does not bring back more revenue.
Not
you
necessarily.
Don't win
no.
every single ad dollar.
No, you're playing averages here. And we were on a raft, like a fishing raft in this lake, and you could see how many fish were in this lake.
Yeah.
I mean, there's hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 of these fish, and big fish in this lake.
Like, you're seeing them swim underneath.
Oh yeah, like they're hanging out in their schools, like they're hanging out at the inlets, like, they're eating. There's tons of these fish, but we caught 3.
Yeah.
In a day and a half.
Yeah.
And that's successful for that lake.
For sure.
So to catch 3 of those fish, that's like, hey, you had an awesome day and a half there because you caught 3 16-inch plus fish.
Yeah.
But most people would say, oh, but there's
1,000,
200, 300, 400, 500, maybe 1,000 fish in there. Like, that's not that good.
Yeah.
So you got to just realize, like, you're playing averages here. Like, your conversion rates, your hit rates with your ads, everything. You're not trying to get everyone.
Yeah.
Like, you have to define what your success actually is before you can define if you've actually won or lost in your strategies.
I mean the other lesson in there, like, marketing lesson that you can pull out of that is and I feel like, maybe now I'm taking things too far, making this a little more cheesy than it needs to be. But the other lesson is, like, sometimes just because something doesn't work in one area of the lake, or a certain fly isn't working,
or it was just simply the time of day.
Yeah, or time of day. Like, sometimes things don't work until they work.
Yes, and sometimes you got to let an ad or a strategy play itself out before you can define if it's a failure or not. So in this example, right, on cast number 10, I mean, there's far more casts than that because we had 10 left.
Right.
But we got there a little early that evening, so it was still just a little hot. The fish weren't rising a ton, but you could see that they were starting to rise as that sun was setting. And then there's like this sweet little window of like, okay, now we're seeing some jumpers. Like, let's hurry and try to get one. So like you said, like, it's not that hook we pulled out of the other fish's mouth wasn't working. It's just we had to wait for the fish to be ready to come up.
Yeah.
So it was just the time of day.
Yeah.
And so sometimes your strategies depend on seasons, they depend on the time of day, it depends on your audience,
Yeah.
right? It depends on where you are. And you can't define success by like a few failures.
Yeah.
Because really successful brands miss out on 95% of the people that go to their website.
Yeah. And more, probably.
Like, think about that, right? Like, your conversion rate's an awesome conversion rate's 5%.
That's an incredible conversion rate.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
95. You're still missing 95% of the people that come through your website.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of seasonality stuff, right, as one of those things, we are on the cusp of the biggest seasonality trends for most brands, which is Q4, Black Friday, holiday
Election
shopping,
season.
yeah, election season. So I think we're mid-August, so this will come out mid-August. Which means that we are, but that means officially 3 months, right? September, October, November, 3 months away from Black Friday
Yes.
season. 90 days. So we figured it'd be a good idea to let's talk about it. Let's start talking about Black Friday. If you're not thinking about it, if you're not thinking about holiday season, we're going to give you some reasons why you should be thinking about it. So I kind of want to talk about, we consult and have a number of clients that some of them had really successful Q4s, especially Black Fridays. Some of them had average ones, Actually, everyone had a pretty good one that we worked with, but there were some that excelled more than others that I'd love to discuss.
To maybe paint that picture with a little more contrast is there's a few people whose Novembers aren't phenomenal.
Well, just naturally because of that business, right?
Yeah, and that has a large part, speaking of knowing your audience, a large part of that is the audience or their customers' motivation to buy from them typically revolves around things that don't have to do with sales, right? Like, they don't buy because of a sale, they're buying because they're releasing, they have new releases every week or every month.
Yeah, there's
two. So they're buying for a different kind of reason.
Yeah.
And yes, people still buy during the sale.
Sure.
And I'm speaking, and we're not necessarily speaking that November isn't bigger in revenue.
Right.
We're talking profitability.
It just might not be this.
It's not the best profitable month of the year.
Yeah, there's what we've recognized is there's two types of brand. I mean, there's probably several more, but from our experience, there are two types of brands, at least that I can think of. Maybe you can think of another one that, like a Black Friday season or a sale season, is not going to be their biggest time of year. Like, it might, like you said, it might be good revenue, but might end up being sixes from a profitability perspective as May, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's, like you said, brands who are constantly releasing new things and just naturally have high returning customer rates. We see them like, yeah, they're going to have a good November, but it's not going to be this, hey, 35% of our revenue and profits came from this individual month.
Which for some companies, that is what
And
November
for a lot of
tends
companies,
to be.
Yes. And then the second brand type are problem solution brands that we generally don't see these massive Novembers.
Yeah, because people buy them when they need them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not I'm waiting to need, I need this problem solved, and I'm going to wait till November to get it.
Yeah, exactly. If I need a Band-Aid, I'm not waiting for them to go on sale. I'm buying a Band-Aid because I
gotta wait for that sale price on Prime Day.
Yeah, exactly.
And yes, people do buy bulk in those situations
for sure. Yeah,
but typically, yes, like, you're not like fingernail clippers.
Yeah,
like, nobody's waiting for those to go on sale. Like, they're just gonna go get them.
And we're talking. I mean, Band-Aids and fingernail clippers are maybe not the best examples. Like, to give a better example, let's say like a baby bottle warmer. That's a problem solution thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like either you have a baby and you need to warm your bottles, or you don't.
If you're a bottle feeding mom, and have a bottle feeding baby, and all it takes is one time at a restaurant to not have that bottle warm enough, and you have a baby who's screaming for 10 minutes while it's heating in a hot thing of water, for you to say, no, I need something that's going to do that in 60 seconds. So I'm going to buy this.
Or on the go in 2 minutes or whatever
exactly.
it is. Yeah.
So like that's maybe a little bit better from like an e-commerce perspective, because I'm sure there's probably very few people who are selling Band-Aids or
I don't know, man,
clippers,
wellies.
But something that people can relate to a little bit more.
True.
So not to say that your November can't still be great if you're selling problem solution / new release, high returning customer rate kind of stuff. You still will have great Novembers, I'm sure.
But you have to define what that means.
Yeah.
Like, what is success for your company in that month? And I think a lot of people look at other companies, and that's fine. You can look at some baselines, but look at your seasonality trends. Look at what you've done in the past, and then set benchmarks based off of what your projected growth is on top of what you have seen this year in ad spend.
Yeah, let's
like, you can come up with a projection and say, hey, this is a successful November for us. We don't have to do necessarily 4x, but how do we do 30% more than last year, or 10, 15% more than last year? It just depends on where you are.
Yeah, let's break that down a little bit, I think, and then we can get into some examples and things you should be doing. But let's break this down, because I think what Mark's saying is super important to say. Let's define success, and there's a handful of ways you can define success. So the first way I think a lot of people look into it is, how do we just get as much revenue as possible? Okay, but you have to break that down.
We have seen, you have to break that down, because we have seen companies kill it in revenue and come out not making a profit in November.
But that can be bad.
And that can be bad or good,
but it
depending
can also be
on
really
what your
good.
cohorts look like.
Exactly, right? So let's break this down. It's bad if those people aren't coming back.
Correct.
Right? But if you have a brand, a product, a solution that and a retention strategy that can get those cohorts to come back. If you also have a customer who is very likely to use word of mouth, then all of that can be very, very good, because you could then have good Decembers, Januaries, Februaries, Marches, and so on and so forth, right? So you just have to look, like, losing profitability or making less than a previous month can be super detrimental depending on what your customer's next actions are going to be. And those next two actions are one of two, and theoretically, hopefully both, which is, let me tell everybody else about it because I love it.
Are they going to buy from you
again? Can I come back again?
Yeah.
So if you have those two things dialed, then having high revenue months and high like net new acquisition months, but lower profitability, that's not a bad thing. Especially if you have the cash flow to cover it, right? Because you know that you're going to make that back in the cohort and in the net new acquisition later, right? If you don't have those things, that's a problem.
Then you got to reevaluate your actual cost per acquisition.
Exactly. And profitability should be, maybe first-time profitability should be more of an important thing.
Yes.
And you should look at it from a first-time profitability, not necessarily on just the first person. Obviously, you start for the individual. So let's say without the discounts, your first-time profitability, I'm just making up a number here, is $40. Like, that's what you're making after CAC and cost of goods sold and shipping, all your variable costs. And let's say you're netting $40 first-time customer on a non-sales month. But when you give 50% off and the conversion rate goes up because of it, maybe that net of $40 per customer, new customer, drops down to $25 or $30. That's not a bad thing if you also triple, or double.
And that's a good point, because people need to remember, when you're giving a discount, those cost variables don't change, right? But your profit does. So that discount eats into your profits, because you still have to pay the same amount.
Your COGS aren't going to change.
For your fixed costs.
Unless you're so big and you order for Black Friday specifically and you get a...
Correct.
We don't need to get into the semantics of...
But generally speaking...
What your MOQs and costs are, but yes.
Yeah, those are going to stay constant.
Yeah.
But so that discount, like your $40 profit might shrink all the way down to like 10.
Right. But you
'Cause-
may go
'cause
from
that's where-
1,000 new customers
to
at $40
$4,000.
of profit to, so what is that, $40,000 in profit that month to maybe, 10,000 customers
Yeah, you
at
might.
$10, So it just changes things.
But you have to map that out.
Yeah.
So you have to define success. So, and you can do this all in a spreadsheet, by the way.
Yeah.
Find out what your actual fixed costs are.
Yep.
What your variable costs are going to be with marketing, what your projected profits are, and then you just do a tiered approach of, hey, if we increase spend by this much based off of the last 6 months of data or last year's data,
Yep.
what is it going to look like for us come October, November, December?
Yep.
Can we increase our customer acquisition enough to make
The difference.
the decrease in profitability per acquisition
Totally.
worth it?
Yep.
And if you can do that math, then things become a lot less scary
Yeah.
and more predictable for you.
Totally.
Because the whole point of marketing is to create a predictable sales funnel.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Yes, it's to get your name out there and whatever, but in the end of the day, the beautiful part about marketing is as you market consistently, you get consistent sales.
Yeah.
And that becomes predictable. And then if you can make a predictable sales channel, you can grow predictably and profitably.
Totally. And it's a game changer, right? Because the number one thing that brands who get into scaling mode have the hardest time figuring out is projections around product. And it's the biggest thing that hurts them because number one, if they order too much, then they feel like they have to, oh my gosh, we are low on cash flow because we've paid so much for product.
Yep.
We're not selling at the rate we should. Therefore, we need to discount more and we need to go full blown sales mode and just like try to get rid of everything so that we can make up the cash flow and or depending on the shelf life of the product. I know you and I have been into those situations.
Yeah, depending on
before.
the shelf life too. Yeah.
That could hurt you. Or sometimes what's even worse is you order too little and you scale so much and you weren't able to predict it that you miss out on so much.
The opportunity cost
Yeah, the
is
opportunity
great.
costs are huge. So you're right. Like brands that can predict things, and obviously it's no one's perfect at it.
Well, it's not a
But-
perfect science because, for example, there's black swans. You had inflation in the
You
last
have
3 years.
COVID, you have
And COVID.
Yep.
And so you can't predict that. However, if your channel is predictable, then it makes it a lot easier to adjust for
yes,
variables that you cannot expect.
100%. And this is all stuff that, by the way, like this is all stuff we never promote ourselves. We don't really promote ourselves, but this is all stuff we do consulting wise. Like that's all what we're trying to do is help people to predict things better. So, okay. So let's talk, what should people be doing?
Well, to prepare for Black Friday, number one, define success.
Yep.
So, like we just said, go back, get a spreadsheet, look at your average cost per. And when I say cost per acquisition, look at your new customers, right? And then you can do aggregations of like AMERs, what a lot of people call it, or AROI, acquisition ROI, or acquisition marketing efficiency return, or I don't know what rate. So do that, figure out what it is, and then look at last year and what it was. And between looking at last year's quarter 3, quarter 4, and this year to date,
Yep.
and like a 3-month rolling average or 2-month rolling averages, you're going to be able to come up with some kind of predictive model.
Totally.
It's not going to be perfect if you're not a data scientist, but it will give you at least a line of sight of where it's going.
100%.
So look at that. Define what success is, and then start looking at what Trevor talked about, which is, hey, if we're planning on doing a 50% discount, how much does that eat into our profit per unit sold?
Yep.
And then if you can do that, you can understand what scaling opportunities
And what levers to pull.
and levers are available to you.
Yep.
Come October and November. So that way you can define what success actually looks like for you and what profitability looks like for you and what revenue looks like for you. And from there, perfect, right? Just like me fishing on that lake, I knew if we caught 3 fish, that's like super successful. I knew that going into that lake.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that we're not going to go in and catch 10 fish.
Yeah.
So my expectations
We're tempered.
and my sons were too. It's like, hey, do you want to catch a few big fish, or do you want to go to an easier lake and use bait and
catch a ton
and catch like 6, 7, 8?
Yep.
And he said, I want to go to the big fish.
Yeah.
So, nonetheless, I digress. So,
lots of fishing analogies.
Number 2 is, how do you start preparing your storefront and your marketing strategies?
Yeah.
So I think we could start with your storefront, which is someone that I think a lot of e-commerce brands always screw up every time, even if they think they're prepared. You see websites that don't have the banner up, or they don't have the promotion up, or the promotion was launched too early and now it's in meta shops and people are seeing it when they shouldn't see it.
Yeah. You get a lot of people, we have this happen a ton, where you get these brands who don't want to give the discount, right? Like they don't, like in a perfect world, they don't want to give the discount, but they know they have to. And so there's a ton of brands that we've worked with before who, what Mark is saying is like, they won't put it in the announcement bar. They won't put it on the banner. They won't put it all over the website.
It's only in the emails.
It's only in the emails. It's only in the ads.
Yeah.
So that like people who are just happenstance be coming to the website, they're going to buy at full price. And they think that...
because they'll buy it anyways.
Yeah, they think that they'll make, like, the money they'll make on people buying full price will outweigh the increase in conversion rate if everyone sees that there's a 30% off or a buy one, get one free or whatever that offer might be.
And why is that the wrong move?
It's the wrong move just because, especially for a Black Friday, like no one's going to a website without the assumption that there's going to be some sort of offer. So like,
and by the way, some of the mentality, and maybe you guys have fallen into this, and we have too in the past, like it's not, we all make mistakes here, but one of the mentalities behind it is, well, I don't want to be seen as a discount brand. Right? So that's one. So I don't want to, I want to be exclusive with my discounts.
Yep.
And then the other one is what Trevor said is, well, if people are going to come anyways and buy, then I want to, I'm pinching pennies here.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost the consumer.
Well, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? In that sense, thinking like, oh, I'm going to make more money, when at the end of the day, actually what will probably happen is your conversion rate will, oftentimes double or triple during that time. So why not have somebody whose first time they're ever hearing about you see this offer and opportunity, and you might as well go for it. I mean, I think that there's a brand right now that I think is going to get into some trouble. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do this year. So one of my favorite brands that I shop with and my wife shops with for active apparel, so for workout gear, is Vuori. And they, for the last 2 years, have done like the dumbest promotion possible. And people on Twitter and people like have been like way upset about it. It was last year, it was spend like $175 and you get this like ghetto dad cap. Like it was such a stupid.
Oh, it wasn't a discount. You just get a.
It was a hat you didn't even get to choose. It was such a dumb Vuori hat. And so it's like, okay, cool. Well, like I'm not going to waste my money over Black Friday shopping with Vuori, just understanding that like why would I spend during that time? I'm going to go spend during another time. And if a activewear brand happens to catch my eye, that offers opportunity for me to test them out at a discounted rate, there's a really good chance that I could move from a diehard Vuori fan where everything I wear when it comes to activewear is Vuori, and I can move that over to Roan or something like that because they're giving me an opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, so that brings up pleasant and unpleasant surprises. So the reason I think first and foremost, the reason why this is a bad move, if you're trying to hide discounts and you're trying to make it too complicated for the consumer, it just goes to consumer or user experience.
Yeah.
Like the customer is always right. Like you want to give the customer a good experience. It's a pleasant surprise. And by the way, evergreen ads that don't even announce a sale tend to perform really well during sales. So
Totally.
don't turn them off.
Yeah, no.
Keep them going because it's a pleasant surprise to catch an ad that you're interested in, and it's not telling you there's a discount, but then you're going to the website and, oh, there's a sale.
Super good psychological hack,
Awesome.
right?
Like, that's a pleasant surprise. Like, I wasn't expecting a sale. I was just interested in this company, this product, this message. And now there's an opportunity that I can take advantage of. That's pleasant.
Yeah, are you more likely to buy? So let's say you see an ad that doesn't say 50% off versus one that does say 50% off. And you have two people who click on that ad. Who's more likely to buy when they see 50% off on the website? For sure, the person who didn't know that it was happening, right? That's just a psychological hack. And we're not saying not to put up.
Well, there's retargeting.
Yes.
Yeah. There's reasons to do sales ads, but don't turn off ads that are working.
No.
Just because they don't announce a sale.
No, because those conversion rates on those clicks tend to be significantly higher than the people who know what they're getting into when they click on it.
Yes.
Just naturally. Sorry.
Well, because sometimes it's, the reverse psychology of that is sometimes you're willing to look just because it's a sale, not because you're truly bought in.
Totally.
It's like, oh, yeah, like you said, hey, another activewear has 50% off. Like, I'll check it out.
Yep.
I'm not sold, but like, I'll check it out because it's 50% off.
Yep.
Which is why you should still run those ads, because there are people that just will only check you out if there's a sale.
For sure.
But your conversion rate's still going to be great, and perhaps your best performers will still be evergreen ads.
Yeah.
And so that's a pleasant surprise. An unpleasant surprise is, hey, you know it's Black Friday. Like, you know it's sales season. You're going to a website and it's full price. It's like, that's not great.
Yeah.
And then you compound that bad experience with, well, I'm really bought into this brand. I'll buy. And then you buy, and then you find out through an ad, oh, they do have a discount.
Sure. Yeah, that would be huge, right? Or you buy for the first time, opt into their email, start getting emails saying, hurry, buy now.
There's a sale.
25% off.
It's like, dude, I just bought.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's a customer service nightmare. So again, I just think put the experience of the customer first, and you can't go wrong. And the best experience is don't make it all sneaky and weird and hard.
Yeah.
And don't try to gamify it too much. Like, yes, cart promotions are great. Like, if you're running a sale and it's like, hey, if you spend $150, you can get a free gift.
Yep.
That's fine. But don't make it so complicated that someone's like, wait, what kind of math do I have to do here to figure out the discount?
Yeah. Yeah, there's people who'll do that all the time. Hey, spend $100, get 20 off. Spend $200, get 50 off. Spend $400, get this off. And your conversion rate will go down if it's too complicated. Here are 3 different promo
codes
that you should use depending on which one you're going to be in.
Yes, don't
There's
do
all
it.
sorts of stuff. And we're also not saying, just to let everyone know, like, we're also not saying that everyone has to run ads or, big discounts for Black Friday.
No, sometimes you're a brand, like we said, there's a brand that we work with where November is not their best in terms of profitability, but it was a lot better last year because they realized we're not a discount brand.
Yeah.
And people don't buy with us because of discounts. They buy with us because of the collectability and the new releases and the one-offs that we do.
Yep.
So let's just tone down the sale discount range, and let's just make sure that we're staying true to who we are. We're not doing this big sale. It's just,
totally,
hey, this is who we are. But there's 25% discount through Black Friday, but that's not a huge discount.
Yeah. So nail the offers. So figure out what the offer is going to be. Make sure that you are super, super prepped across all channels to share that. I mean, I even would put that in my social bios because, depending on the brand, you're like 20 to 50% of your clicks go to someone's social page, not the actual website.
Yeah, so make sure
it's front and center there.
Seen.
Yeah, update the bio. Hey, 50% off when you shop today for Black Friday, or 20% off or buy one, whatever that offer is.
And don't forget about your shops.
Yep, don't forget about your shops.
Because
don't set it up too early.
The integration, so this is something a big mistake that people are making, and we've already seen it this year. All of your codes are getting pushed into Meta from Shopify.
Yeah.
So if the Shopify Meta integration, if you have a code go live, even if you're trying to, quote, hide it, it's going to pop up over in Meta.
Yeah.
Which can also pop up in ads, too, depending on what kind of dynamic qualities you're running in ads. So if you're not ready for a code to go live, don't have it go live.
Yep. Yep.
And this is another reason why you shouldn't hide things, is because you're going to miss one of these avenues where that code is going to be seen and give people bad experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
Give people the good experience, but also just be cognizant that those codes are going to show up in Meta, TikTok, and your Shopify store.
Yep. Couple of things like, I know that one's like prep. This is how to be prepped for day of, but some things I want to talk about that people can start doing like right now. Like one things that happens a lot of times is people September and October, depending on the brand, obviously, they can be quote unquote poor month, like not as great months, especially October, because sometimes people, I know me as a consumer, if I'm looking to buy, I have my favorite brands. Like I stopped buying in October for some of those favorite brands because I know that in historical time, like previous times, that a brand is going to give me 25+% off. So why not wait a month? So
it depends.
Yeah. So it depends. So you see a lot of brands who will decrease their spend significantly in October in preparation for November. And this is where Mark comes into, you got to figure out and define success, and you got to look at your numbers, and you got to know your numbers historically, because one, that could be a good idea. It definitely could be a good idea if you understand your customer base. But we just recently went into, so there's a lot of people, most people don't look at this in the Shopify analytics dashboard. I think over the last maybe 12 to 18 months, this is a new piece, which is their cohort analysis tab, or like a little tile.
Yeah, in the last year.
Yeah. And essentially what that you can
for Shopify Plus at least,
Yeah, you can look at this several different ways, but essentially what this cohort analysis does, it'll say like, hey, of the people who purchased in of the new customers that purchased in October, how many of those people came back and bought again, and how much money did they spend in November? How much money did they spend in December? And it will tell you the cohort from July, August, September, October, how likely that cohort is to come back and spend in November. So you can go and look at data. And so there's a lot of brands that we're working with who tend to want to decrease their spend in October. But when you go back and look at their like last 2 to 3 years of October cohorts are the biggest spenders in November. And that goes back to, I think it was a Taylor Holiday tweet mixed with Aaron Orndorff. I think they worked on it together when they were both at CTC, where it was, they do kind of like a lifetime value analysis, which is if you can get somebody to purchase a second time with you within a 60-day time frame, it might even be 90 days that they do it. If you can get that person to buy a second time, their LTV is likely to be like 5 times higher within that year, And so what I'm trying to say here is when somebody buys in October and the product delights them, you're that much more on their kind of radar to succeed. Because if I just bought these pants and I'm in love with them,
well, if they're willing to try you in October, no one's dumb. Like everyone knows there's sales coming in November.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden I get a 50% off, or buy one pair of pants, get a second one for free, and I love the pants. Even though I might not need them, of course I'm going to buy them.
Yeah.
So
and that goes back to like this other brand, for example, which is, and this might be you. And the reason why I keep bringing this up is just to offer a different perspective, because everyone thinks and hears the stories of Black Friday and how their November should be, but your company might just not be that. This other brand, whose Novembers aren't always great, their best profitability months are September and October.
Yeah.
Because it's their wardrobe changing months.
Sure.
And because they're doing limited releases and fashion.
Wardrobe changing months, meaning you're going from
summer to
heat,
fall and
July,
winter.
August.
Yes.
To cooler months. And so that's what Mark means, right? You're going from shorts to, now I'm never wearing shorts, I'm only wearing pants.
You're going to pants, long sleeves, sweaters, layers. Yes.
Keep going.
Yes. or it's, collectible items. And
Yeah.
so October crushes for these people,
Yeah.
right? It just crushes. And September does too. And November's good, but it's just not quite as good because that's when people aren't necessarily like, hey, I want to get this special item for this season. It's just like, hey, I'm just buying stuff. I'm buying gifts because, again, there's a lot of gift buying in November. It's not just I'm buying for me. I'm buying for family and friends and whatever.
Yeah.
And that goes into some of the psychology of going into November. So just remember, though, what Trevor said is like, hey, yes, November, but October and September can be phenomenal months for you.
Yeah,
and they might even be, like, for some brands, they're
even
the
August,
best months.
Yeah, even August, 100%. And August, September, and October oftentimes will make or break what happens in November for a lot of people.
It will.
So look at your numbers, previous data.
Because you're still fresh on their mind from September and October.
Totally.
If they bought from you in July, are they even looking at your emails anymore?
Yeah, probably not.
I don't know. You go, and again, define success. Go look at your metrics and see what your engagement rates are. But like a lot of people just think, hey, I bagged some people back in quarter 2. I'm just going to retarget all of them in quarter 4. It's like they might not care about you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And if you weren't doing your due diligence in July, like let's go back to like a workout brand, okay? Like, and the reason why I keep bringing up like a workout brand is because workout brands, you tend to burn through clothes quickly, because there's more wear and tear on that, from sweat to rubbing to whatever. And so you're oftentimes buying more and more workout clothes. And if you're not continually staying top of mind, workout brands are a dime a dozen. I used to be a huge Lululemon guy, and they got out of my ear, and now I haven't bought anything from Lululemon in the last probably 2 years. So yeah, staying top of mind is super critical, especially, in H2, the last half of the year. Another thing that I think could be really cool that I'd like to talk about that people can do to prep, and the reason why I announced, hey, you're about like 90-ish days away from this holiday season, this Black Friday, this like mecca of shopping. This is something most brands don't do, but I think there's such awesome opportunity, and you see it in the retail space, and people love it. And what it is getting a product specifically ready for Black Friday. So launching a product specific to Black Friday, or creating a gift with purchase that is specific to Black Friday. So it's
having a sweepstake.
Yep, having something that you don't ever do. And the reason why that's really cool and important is because Black Friday does become, I mean, it's an absolute, dumpster fire fest in many ways, in the sense that like everyone's going to up their email sends, everyone's going to up their texts, everyone's going to be doing discounts, and you're going to be seeing ads, and you're going to be getting bombarded like crazy. And most people, because of the point you made, which is you made a point, which is, hey, simplify your discounts. Most people you are going to see, it's either going to be a buy one, get one, or it's going to be a % off, right? Those two are going to make up 80%.
And by the way, we have run surveys with percentages off during...
To understand what a good discount is.
Yes. During Black Friday, outside of Black Friday. During Black Friday, if your discount is not 30% or more,
they don't consider it a good Black Friday deal.
They don't consider it a good deal.
Like people are upset. I just to let you know, we run that survey after every Black Friday.
Yep.
Like after every Black Friday, we put a survey out, and it's consistent across the board. Anything under that is awful. People just like, I'm not going to buy, like, if it's not that. No, to
the point where we have run tests with brands about pop-ups outside of Black Friday.
Yep.
So a lot of people run pop-ups, hey, sign up for an email and get 15% off your first order. And we have run tests, and again, run your test because your audience, it just depends on your audience. But some people see a better conversion rate just getting rid of pop-ups and a 15%, because a lot of people don't even consider 10 or 15% a good deal anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, 5 years ago was an awesome
It's like,
marketing tactic. Now it's whatever.
It's like I don't care, and you just like blew this like my whole page up.
Yeah.
So discounts aren't everything for everyone.
Yep.
And depending on your audience.
Totally. So back to this like product strategy. There's a really cool product development strategy that I think can help your brand stand out. I remember my mom, she loved, like my mom loved Victoria's Secret, like perfumes, and like they had lotions.
I'm really glad you.
I know. I had to say that really quickly because I didn't want to be like my mom.
My mom really loves Victoria's Secret. I was like, where are we going here?
She loved like their pajamas, and she loved their, like I said, their lotions and stuff like that. And they like every holiday season had this like the ultimate mom tote that they would give to anybody who came and shopped in person and spent more than X amount of money, X amount of dollars, and everyone got it. And people like, she like lived and died by that bag. It was the only reason she shopped at Victoria's Secret really ever. And she would buy all of her lotions for the year, you know,
during Black Friday,
gifts,
get her tote,
because she got this tote that probably cost Victoria's Secret $7 to make.
Right.
You know, probably even less with how big Victoria's Secret, you know, used to be. I know they're not as big anymore, but the little things like that go a long way. But most brands don't think about it until they start prepping for Black Friday, normally in like mid-October, and they're like, oh, well, crap, our turn times for product is 60 to 90 days. We can't get anything. So if you're like that interests you at all, you want to do a gift with purchase for people who spend X amount of dollars, which crushes it.
Some kind of exclusive new release.
Yeah, or an exclusive color that only like, hey, you know, once again, if you're a collectibles, that's a great idea for these new releases. Brands maybe who don't have great Novembers, you want a way to maybe have an awesome November is to do a really exclusive release on a color or a whatever of something.
Yes.
And maybe that is huge for you. And then eventually you can make a name for it. And guess what? Usually if you do that and you have an exclusive color, but you also have a discount going, they're not just going to buy that exclusive color. They're also going to be like, well, I might as well continue to shop. They have a 35% off discount code, or they have a buy one, get one free here. So I might as well buy multiple things.
Yeah.
So product, I think that's one of the biggest, one of the most underrated strategies, because like I said, most people aren't thinking about Black Friday.
One of the most untapped.
Yes. Far enough in advance. And it's a great, great way to stand out.
And just so everyone knows, we've been on the brand side of this. Like, we know why a lot of people don't prepare for Black Friday until October. It's because a lot of you companies are running thin.
You're lean.
Everyone's doing a lot of things. It's hard to sit and project, but you've got to spend the time, make the time, carve it out, make it sacred. Like, you have to project out a quarter in advance of what you're trying to achieve that quarter and what possible avenues you can to help make it better.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing that is awesome, like we've seen brands now a couple years in a row do this. Going back to this discounting to get people in the door, or getting somebody in the door as a first-time customer and then hitting them with a discount 3 weeks later, 6 weeks later, whatever, and how much more likely that person is to buy again. We've seen the brands last year and 2 years previous to this who had the most success for a Black Friday month were people who did a early pre-Black Friday sale in November.
And end of October or November, yeah.
Yep. So like
you could do a Halloween sale, or you could call it pre-Black Friday.
Yeah, a lot of them
sale.
did pre-Black Friday first week of November, and it was anywhere from a 2 to 5 day sale.
Yep.
And then, if I remember right, Black Friday was like late.
It was
like 27th, 28th, or something like that.
Yeah, I want to say it was like the 24th or something. Yeah.
Because I feel like Cyber Monday went into December last year.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It could have been 2 years ago. But it was late enough that the reason why this worked really well is they did this sale Like I said, let's say it was like the 7th through the 10th of November. And then they just called it Black Friday month or something like that. They didn't quite like, so it almost alluded.
Yeah, the Black Friday was on the 24th.
Oh, was it? Okay. So maybe the previous year it was into Cyber Monday.
Well, that week, so Cyber Monday would have been the 27th, right?
Yeah.
So that would have ran through January or December 1st, that Friday.
Okay.
And most people ran it a week,
Yep.
so it was 24th to the 1st.
Yep. And then what they do is they put out either the same deal or better, or slightly different, but like same value, because you don't want to get a ton of people who are complaining a second time. And what the reason why this worked so well is, one, Mark and I used to work on a brand side. We used to work for this brand who never did a Black Friday deal. In fact, we always did something called like Unblack Friday, I think is what it was called.
It's like 2 weeks before.
Yep, and it was a week or two before. And our whole messaging was, we give our team Thanksgiving off, so we don't want anybody focused on work. We just want people focused on time. And we thought that message was such an awesome message, because it is an awesome message. But we thought that message would it would outweigh the conversion rate we were missing out on over Black Friday timing. And so we never did these Black Friday sales. But then our last year at the company together, we decided to do an actual Black Friday sale, because we had looked at the previous 3 weeks or 3 years, and our conversion rate on Black Friday, even though we didn't have an offer, was almost always double. So like we had tons of people going to the website when we weren't increasing spend.
And there was like you said, there was a small discount, but it wasn't.
No, we never did. For at least the first 2 years, we never did a discount. There was a discount always 2 weeks before or a week before.
What I mean is, like, there was still a discount running with the email pop-up.
Sure, yeah, you still got the 15% off or whatever we were doing. Yeah. Maybe it was 20%.
But people were still buying on Black Friday.
Yeah, and we'd have like if a normal day for us back then was like $20,000, and we'd do like 50 that day, and you're like, but it was just because people's mentality was buy. I need to buy something. So we decided to do it, and we had our biggest Black Friday sales ever when we just moved the sale from 2 weeks previous. We still put out the same messaging, which was, hey, we're not going to ship this out to you, because no one's going to be working on that Friday or that Saturday.
Like, people are with their families.
Yeah, people are still with their families, enjoy Thanksgiving. So back to this doing these two different discounts, the reason why I think it worked really well for these brands who did it was, one, I do think people's mentality is the last 3 years, especially, I think COVID started this because people just needed capital. They started doing Black Friday sales early. So now I think people's mentality is, hey, Black Friday sales could come actually much earlier than Black Friday. So you get a ton of people.
I mean, Black Friday is just a month at this point.
Yep. So you get a ton of people who take advantage of the sale number one. Okay. And then you got a ton of people who didn't do it, who regretted it. And then when the actual Black Friday sale happened, all those people who regretted either not buying a second thing, spending more money, came and bought again. And you had a ton of people who buy just because they were waiting for Black Friday. So this dual selling was awesome. The brands that did the worst, I will say, still did okay, but did the worst were people who did a full month's worth of sales, because it excluded any of that psychological stuff.
Yeah, they did it for 1 week, 2 weeks, or they did it for the full month, and then the full month had the worst performance. Not that they had a bad November, but
significantly not as good.
Yeah.
And I'll eat crow on that, because 2 years ago, or maybe it was 3 years ago, I was like so bullish. In fact, we had a podcast episode of like, hey, what should you do? And I think we did a draft pick, because that was a trend. I was like, discount all month, 100%. And all the brands who did it, like I said, they didn't have as successful as they could have had. So,
and some of this, again, based on your audience, if you have a predominantly male audience, men tend to buy later. They are not as great at buying in advance.
Last minute-er, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the brands that we saw have the best success with this strategy was a male-based brand.
Sure.
because the first one, you get all the ones that actually do jump in, get it like early.
Yep.
But they still had so many stragglers just like that. Oh, I'll just wait till the end of the sale. And then they forgot.
Yeah.
And then they launched the second round of discounts 2 weeks later. And that round crushed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, some of this is a little bit gender bias, like depending on your audience or whatever. But yeah, so look at your audience, look at their behaviors, look at who they are, what they do, what they want, and then start planning that out. And so if you want to do a discount, do it, or a 2-tiered discount. 1 week, beginning of November, and then
last week.
Yep.
Or,
is what we saw work best across the board.
Yeah, just whenever Black Friday, Cyber Monday is, whatever that is this year.
So either 1 week, and that's just Black Friday, or do the 2 weeks, which is, or 3 days. And when we say 2 weeks, it's like it doesn't have to be a full week, the first sale.
Totally.
It could be 3 to 5 days.
And most people didn't do a full week.
It was usually like 3 to 5 days. It was like that weekend.
Yep.
Going into November.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like the early bird, like Black Friday discount or something.
Yeah. Crushed it. It's so good. Like those brands, like I love the strategy. I still do. It's something that we're talking to all of our clients about and really pushing them into it.
Because a lot of buyers start adding to cart, like they start planning out what they want to buy for the discounts. And so if you can capture them early, then you have the opportunity to have them buy again later.
Yeah. Another thing that's really cool that I've seen some brands do that seems like a small thing, but I think just helps with this conversion rate is back to what Mark was saying. Hey, everybody's doing this like, hey, get 10, 15% off on your first time order. And that's what your pop-up says. Most brands don't match their pop-up with what their Black Friday deals are going to be. So I would recommend 2 weeks before that sale, changing your pop-ups to say, hey, get your first time order we're going to be doing a 35% off deal or whatever. Like you can match it to that. And most people will think, oh, well, that's going to kill my sales today. And you're like, yeah, it might. But once again, you go back to the averages. Like you're not looking at in November, you're not looking at what November 1st did for you and what November 2nd did for you. Like at the end of the day, you're going to look at what November did for you, And so if you changing your pop-ups to match the offer is going to delay a sale, but eventually get more people and build that email list, it's significantly worth it. So I think that's another like really cool preparation thing that people can and should do.
Yes. And like you said, the averages, like you're going to see dry weeks.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter how November 10th through the 18th does.
Yeah. What matters is what October through December did for you.
Yes. What matters is what the quarter did and what the months do.
Oh, 100%.
And yes, there's strategies with cost caps depending on like what your profitability is. And so defining success again is important here because some people say, well, should I drop spend on those weeks that aren't performing? And there's 2 ways to think about that, which is you need to look at your user behavior on site. So if nobody's buying and they're just waiting for a sale, should you not spend money?
Yeah, I would decrease spend a little bit.
But if their behavior is hey, your add to cart rate has gone up.
Sure, that's true.
But your conversion rate's down,
or your email subscribers is going up. Then yeah, keep the spend going.
Like sure. Why would you stop spending, right? So
if none of that's happening, then yeah, maybe you do look at decreasing spend a bit.
Yeah, maybe you do. Yeah. So maybe you put in some cost caps because and then again, it also depends on what is your customer's buy life cycle. So how long does it take for them to come to site to buy or know about you and buy? Is this a 7-week average or is this a 7-day average?
Totally. So look at
like if they're buying within 7 days usually, then like there's a good argument that hey, we don't need to really pile up a big list a month before.
Yeah, because people buy on the spot. Yeah, or within a couple of days. But that's a good like reason, like make sure you have those bestie surveys running. Right. And you're doing your post-purchase survey stuff to understand how long it takes somebody to buy, what those first channels are, really understanding that customer journey.
And that's stuff you need to be doing now.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's going to help theoretically dictate your spending strategy for
your strategies within the moment.
100%.
Because once the game starts, you do have a strategy, but you have to adjust.
Yeah.
And again, there's going to be some adjustments this year with the election. That's November 4th or 5th, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
So sometimes we don't know how that's truly going to affect all of the advertising dollars out there. There's going to be a huge influx of advertising spend from political campaigns, probably starting in September to October. It's already starting, but it's just going to get more and more and more because, again, people have short memories.
Yep.
Like, people are still undecided, so they spend a lot of money going into the coming weeks.
Yep.
And just know, what's your strategies on how to adjust? Well, you have to know how to measure if you want to adjust.
Yep.
It's easy to do that in a basketball game or a football game because you know what the score is, right? Like, okay, there's a score. I can see what's happening. I know what plays. I know what defense they're running, so I know how the offense might need to adjust. But with your e-commerce strategy, if you're not measuring what the score is and you're not measuring, right, what the impacts of all these little variables are, then you don't know how to adjust.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So like you said, hey, if my add to cart rate's going up or if my subscribers are going up, but my sales have just slumped like crazy, well, yeah, you're 2 weeks away from Black Friday.
Yeah.
People just want a discount.
People are researching and prepping and exactly.
So maybe you start sending them emails, prepping them.
Yep.
Right? Like, what's the strategy to make sure that you don't lose their attention over the next week or two?
Totally.
But you don't cut spend off just because of that.
I got 3 more, and I can move through them quick because we probably need to end this podcast.
3 more?
Yes. It'll be quick, okay? Email more often than you think you need to.
Twice as often as you think you need to.
Yes.
If you think you're capped at 2 times a week, then you should be doing it 4 times a week.
And I think you should be doing it 1 to twice a day. Like, you can go big time. I actually think nowadays there's so many emails, people should just be emailing every day.
Yes.
Like, if you're doing it, I mean, you have to have the right strategy around it, but email, text more frequently, especially during the actual sales.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, that's number 1. Number 2, which goes back to my product one, is make sure your best selling products are in stock. The worst thing possible is that your hero acquisition product is out of stock halfway through the sale. So make sure you prep inventory appropriately.
And if inventory is running thin, you better get some aired.
Yes, which means that right now, do your projection for what you're going to sell September, October, because if you're going to be running lean in November, you can get really, really screwed over. Massive opportunity.
And we're still far enough away that you should be able to get an order shipped. I mean, what, 90 days?
Yeah, you're 90 days. So you are, we are kind of cutting it a little close depending on the brand, like depending on what country you
that's true.
Get out of. But
if you're 90 days out, like you can still get it in, and guess what?
You can for sure air it.
You can for sure air, but guess what? A lot of people are fine not getting this in 3 days.
Yeah, most people's expectations, double.
So just
for those kinds of
have
things.
your contingencies in place. Like if you're gonna cut it close and that
you have to
shipment's not gonna get for like a
something
week,
like that. Yep.
Just say, hey, we're backed up. It'll be there.
Yeah.
In a week or two.
Also, not to mention that Chinese New Year is coming up. So if you are getting your stuff from China, like your last POs probably should be placed for the year by early October. And then the last thing finally is just get a slew of content ready. Lots of content. Not all of it has to be your discount content, but
old slew.
Get UGC, get founder facing content, get a lot of videos, get some statics, because you want to test so much creative and make sure that, because a lot of people are going to double, triple their ad spend, which means that you're going to burn through creative quicker. So make sure you have a lot of creative. Don't think that the same amount of creative you use with a $50,000 or $100,000 a month ad spend is going to be the same amount of creative you should use with a $200,000 a month ad spend.
Yes.
That's it. Start prepping right now. If you have other questions, reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you guys. bestiemedia.co. You can reach out to us through there, or you could also reach out to us through Instagram, the Trevor Crump. But yeah, that's all we have today.
Let's go.
Episode 97, episode 100 coming soon. We'll see you guys next week.
Ciao.
Thank you so much for listening to the Unstoppable Marketer podcast. Please go rate and subscribe the podcast, whether it's good or bad. We want to hear from you because we always want to make this podcast better. If you want to get in touch with me or give me any direct feedback, please go follow me and get in touch with me. I am at the Trevor Crump on both Instagram and TikTok. Thank you, and we will see you next week.